Hi, David Stewart here. It's been a while since I've been able to put out any content because I've had a lot of stuff going on. I got married and I am fixing to make another move back towards Northern California, getting out of the LA area and going back towards the Bay again. So hopefully I'll be getting to do some new videos in an all new studio. So I'll get to say bye bye to this extra bedroom and get to head up to a new place. I'm really excited about getting to work in there, getting to write some new books, getting to do some new recording, do some new videos, and getting to do a lot of practicing in a space that should be really, really, really well suited for it. So what I thought I'd do today, just to get back into the swing of things, is to make a little bit of an advice video for those of you who are looking into performing on the classical guitar or the flamenco guitar. Looking to do gigs or to play recitals, and just some of my tips for that. I've been doing it a really, really, really long time. And what I would like to stress before I begin is that if you are considering doing a lot of performance, make sure that you have all of the right equipment to do what you need to do before you start a business like that. Make sure you record your expenses because for tax purposes and things like that, it's really important to have a good record of how much money you've spent and where, and to make sure you comply with the law and those sorts of things. So the first thing is dress appropriately. If you're playing classical guitar, that means if you're a man, you should be wearing a suit to most gigs. You can wear a tie or not wear a tie depending on how you feel like the venue and the atmosphere is going to be, but try to dress nice, try to wear a suit. It's really, really hard, especially as a man, to overdress at any particular performance. Even if everybody comes wearing t-shirts and jeans, you're not going to look out of place being on stage or being in front of everyone and performing. If you're a woman, try to wear business-like attire, wear dark clothes. Try not to wear really formal attire like ball gowns or something like that. Some women do those in recitals, and that's fine. But for just sort of playing on the town, playing at a cafe or a club, or playing at a restaurant, it might be a little too formal or a little distracting. So I usually say, wear good business attire. What you'd wear if you were a lawyer is usually a good bet. Okay. Whenever you're at the gig, be polite. Be polite to anybody that talks to you that's a patron, that's a concert goer, and especially anybody that's hiring you to be there. Every time you go to a gig, you have to look at that gig as marketing for your next gig. So the dressing appropriately is important. The being polite is very appropriate. Bring cards. If you have cards or CDs, you always want to be trying to get that next gig lined up. And a lot of people will see you in a place. You go play a restaurant, they'll hire you to play a party. You never quite know what you're going to get. But go into every gig like you're marketing for your next gig. Don't drink or do drugs at your gig. This is, I guess the exception would be if you drink all the time. If you're an alcoholic, then don't give it up just for the gig. But don't drink, don't do any kind of drugs when you're at the gig. It will impair your ability to perform, whether you realize it or not. So it's a good idea to avoid it. If you're at a restaurant and somebody sees you and they want to buy you a drink as like a tip, just see if you can get a Diet Coke or something like that. Drinking while you're performing can have bad outcomes, especially if you become intoxicated about that. So try to avoid drinking. If you know your tolerances, maybe you can have a glass of wine if somebody buys it for you to not be insulting, but I usually try to avoid all alcohol. Don't over practice. So the day of the gig, do not do a big long practice session to try to get ready for the gig. You'll actually tire your hands out. You won't be able to properly perform when the time comes, or you'll be playing very intense or technically difficult pieces, and you may find your hands to be too fatigued from the previous practice session. And the general rule of thumb for that is take whatever amount of time you would normally practice in a day. Let's say you practice 4 hours and you're going to play a 2-hour recital. Do not practice more than 2 hours prior to that recital. You want to be as fresh as possible. In fact, I'd say practicing even less. Practice an hour if you want. Take some time off. I know a lot of performers that don't practice at all the day of the gig. They want to be totally fresh when they show up. So that's a good idea. Don't over practice the day of the gig. Assume whatever venue you're going to will have nothing in it that you need. And that includes a chair. I usually bring a stool just in case to every gig I play, a little like a drum throne that's really comfortable to sit in, but it's really compact. I can throw it just in the back of the truck or whatever and be able to be good to go. So you should bring your guitar. That's an obvious one. If you're a classical guitarist, you probably don't need to bring a backup guitar. I'll do another video for people who are playing in rock bands or blues or anything like that, in which you usually do have to bring a backup guitar. But for a classical guitar, you're not usually snapping strings, so a backup guitar is not really necessary at all. You should bring a music stand. Do not assume just because you're playing at a place that has a lot of music that they have music stands. So if you're going to be reading, that is not playing stuff totally by memory, bring a music stand. You can get a little wire stand from a music store for like 10 or 15 bucks. That'll do pretty much what you need, and they're nice and compact. You can throw it in your bag. Bring an amplifier and a microphone. Even if you're playing in a place that you assume you'll be able to play acoustically, it's a good idea to bring an amp and bring a mic to mic yourself up if you don't have a guitar that has a built-in pickup. So bring your amp and bring an extension cord because you don't know where the power will be. So those are big preparation elements. Bring an amp, bring a mic, bring an extension cord. Assume that they won't have any of those things. Assume they won't have a PA, right? If you're going to be doing vocals, make sure that you bring a mic for your vocals as well and a mic stand, okay? Bring your footstool or your guitar support. You know, if you practice with one of these, try to perform with one of these. This sticks on the side of the guitar, puts the guitar up at a nice angle for playing. I like these a lot. They save the back. Bring a bottle of water or a bottle of soda, whatever you like to drink. I like to drink Diet Coke all the time, so or sometimes, you know, Rockstar. So bring whatever you like to drink. Water's good. Don't assume that you'll be able to get anything to drink from staff, even in a restaurant. And another thing that I usually say is I say bring an iPod with some way to connect it to your amp. And there's a couple reasons for this. The main reason is that if you have any backing tracks that you play to, you want to have a backup of those. If you're playing with a drum machine, you want to have a backup of the drum tracks too. And when you take breaks, sometimes it might be appropriate to play some music softly while you're taking a break to sort of fill the silence. So I like to play like Robert Barton lute music while I take breaks, and that's usually a good call. You can play whatever you like. So in a restaurant, a lot of times they will just pipe in music when you're not playing, and that's okay. But if you're in another venue that maybe doesn't have that, it's a good idea to fill the silence. Bring that just in case. So those are the things you need. The next thing is day of the gig. You want to take breaks if you need them. Know sort of how many breaks you need by your practice. In some cases, it might be 10 minutes an hour, might be less. I usually take short breaks and very infrequent breaks. I don't need a lot of breaks. But when I do take them, I try to be in a place that I'm not going to be totally assaulted by people. That's just me. If you don't mind talking to people on your breaks, go for it. The one thing I will say is that if you smoke, take breaks away from other people. Take breaks where you can't be seen smoking. And the reason for that is not because I think smoking is bad, but because some people will judge you for it and judge you negatively for smoking if you are a smoker. So just be aware of that. You're always trying to put on a face, just like how you never see Barack Obama smoke a cigarette, even though he smokes like a pack a day. Never see a picture of him do it because it puts out a negative image. People will judge you based on the fact that you smoke. So just avoid it or do it where people are not going to see you. You'd be surprised the kind of discrimination people have inside against smokers. Avoid changing the strings on your guitar the day of the gig or really close to the gig. At least put 1 or 2 days of practice on a set of classical guitar strings to sort of break them in. The reason for that is that they go out of tune a lot, and you don't want to be having to constantly tune at the recital or at the gig, whatever you might be doing. So change the strings a couple days prior. Some people change their strings a lot. Some people don't change their strings a lot. I probably change my strings less frequently than what would probably be necessary. But make sure you don't change them the day of the gig unless you absolutely have to. And if you do, try to break them in, do a little playing on them. Next, let's talk about arranging your set. So your set is what songs you're going to play in what order. It's really important to know how to arrange a good set depending on what you're doing. All right. If you're playing at a restaurant, you could pretty much play anything in any order that you like because it's sort of background music, and you may want to avoid really bombastic, loud pieces just in general. It's up to you. If you're playing a recital, though, the order that you do your pieces in can really, really matter. And there's a couple reasons for that. So the first one is nerves. You'll be nervous when you play your first piece. And the second one is fatigue. You'll get tired out from playing. So I usually say start with something really pretty easy. Even like Bonehead easy, if you're an advanced player, you could play Romanza at the beginning of a gig. And the reason that you want to pick something easy is because you're going to have a lot of nerves. And if you pick something easy, those nerves have a chance to work themselves out while you're playing something that it's really hard to mess up on. Okay? So you'll be able to build some confidence by playing a piece well, even if it's an easy piece. You'll feel good. You won't worry about making as many mistakes after that first piece. And while you're dealing with the nerves, while you're dealing with sort of the psychic sort of reflex that happens as you get on stage or do any kind of public speaking, you'll be able to get calmed down for the rest of your set. Play your harder pieces towards the middle of your set or even the beginning of your set. And the reason for that is that once you have the nerves worked out, you want to be able to play the pieces that require the most effort and concentration, so you can just focus on them. And you don't want to put those towards the end of your set, even if they're really exciting, and you're like, man, this would be a great finisher, because you may be too fatigued to actually perform the piece well. Okay? So you may be too fatigued to actually perform the piece well. Don't put those at the end. At the end, you want to put something that's really exciting and really active, but it's still on the easy side. And the reason for that is because you'll be fatigued. You'll be too fatigued to do things that require lots of holding of difficult hand positions, but you may not be so fatigued you can't do something very fast with the right hand. Usually my left hand is more fatigued than my right, so I tend to pick pieces that are really flashy with the right hand to end with, but are not too difficult with the left hand. Other than that, you can arrange the pieces how you like. If you're going to do encores, make sure you have practiced your encores and you've thought about ahead of time what you want to do as an encore. Don't just go out and think, oh, well, I'll play this piece, because you could bomb it and you don't want to end your recital with a piece that you've messed up on. Okay. And the last thing is, after you've played the gig, after you've played through everything and you've done a great job, go out and mingle with people. This is the hard one for me because I like to just kind of go into my own world, especially when I'm done with the recital. But like I said, every gig is you marketing for your next gig. So go out and talk to people. Sell your CDs if you have CDs. Pass out cards. Build some casual relationships so that you can get more gigs in the future. All right. So those are all the things that I have to say about preparing for a performance on the classical guitar. In general, dress nice, be polite. Okay. Avoid drinking and things like that. Don't over practice. Assume your venue will have nothing that you actually need at it. Take your breaks and take them away from people if you want to smoke. Avoid changing your strings close to the gig. Arrange your set so that you start and end with things that are really manageable and pretty easy to play. And then put your harder stuff in the middle. And make sure your encores are planned in advance. And mingle with people. Remember, every gig is you marketing for your next gig. So hopefully that's helpful. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Share this video with people if you found it helpful, and hopefully get a few more views on the channel. And I really, really appreciate it. Keep practicing, and I hope you have a great day.